Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminology, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today is Monday, so it must be time for some more manga. So these continue to be my least popular videos. So if you're watching this, thank you. Hopefully, you're watching it because you're a manga fan. But if you're watching it just to hear me ramble on about books, then thank you even more. Perhaps you are truly a hardcore Criminology fan. So thank you very much. So 4 things to talk about this week. 4 of the ongoing series I'm reading. I'll start with Blood on the Tracks because that is definitely my favourite series at the moment. I read this just yesterday and it blew me away. This series continues to really amaze me in terms of how effective and disturbing and gripping it is. So it's effectively a series, if you've not watched these videos and heard me talk about it before, about the relationship between a kind of teenage boy and his mum. In the 4th volume in the series, and I will put chapters into this so that people can avoid spoilers, so there'll be chapters in the video so you can skip forward if you want to. So in the 4th volume, there's a girl at the kids' school who kind of fancies him basically, and they end up going on like a date without the mum knowing, because the mum is jealous of this girl. In this book, they kind of run away together in this volume, and more stuff is coming out about the backstory. There's some stuff going on between the boy and the girl as well, and it just is getting more and more disturbing. I didn't think it could get more disturbing, but it really is. It's a really interesting examination of what it's like to be a teenager, but also of the impact that our parents have on our lives, and particularly where parents have mental health challenges of their own, the way that can impact their children. I just think this is a stunning work and so well drawn as well. The artwork is fantastic. And I had an interesting chat on Instagram with someone where we were talking about the fact that these books are incredibly quick to read because there's very little dialogue in them. You will quite often get one scene that goes on for like pages and pages and pages, because you get almost like frame by frame illustrations of what's happening. So they are incredibly quick to read, but you feel like sometimes you're reading them too quickly and you're not spending the time to really appreciate the brilliance of the artwork and things like that in this book. So I just think it's breathtakingly good so far, but incredibly disturbing. So definitely comes with like major trigger warnings. Also read volume 8 of Attack on Titan. So after volume 7, which was very much just one long battle scene, this felt like a kind of slower paced entry in the series. Very much about the more about the characters and the relationship between the characters, and also about them trying to work out the mystery of the relationship between humans and Titans. So really interesting. It felt like more of you're getting more of kind of the political backdrop of the world that they operate in, and how their society functions, which is really interesting. But I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the previous volume. The previous volume was just so exciting. This one, I enjoyed slightly less, and I do find myself getting slightly confused about exactly what's going on with some of the characters. I feel like maybe I need to go back to the start and read it through again, because there's a lot going on. There's a load of different characters to keep track of, and I'm not convinced I'm quite keeping up with it, and maybe that's because I'm leaving a week between each volume. But yeah, I do find myself getting a little bit lost at times. So I think, going to go back and reread some of the earlier volumes and just make sure I definitely get what's going on, because it can be a little bit confusing at times. I then also read on the Shonen Jump app, which I talked about in the last episode of this. So I've finished now reading the physical volumes I had of both Chainsaw Man and Spy Family, and I've moved to reading them on the Shonen Jump app because the Shonen Jump app is cheap. So the individual volumes of those books are like £7 each, but you can read them for, you can read as much as you want on the Shonen Jump app for $2.99 a month. And they're not things I'm necessarily going to want to go back in the future and read again. I'm certainly not worried about having a physical copy of them. And reading, I'm finding reading in the Shonen Jump app is fine. It's not quite as nice as reading a physical book, but it's close enough. So Spy Family, I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as previous volumes. So this was volume 5. It was entertaining. It's still entertaining. You've got the nice interplay between the kind of spy stuff and the little girl at school and her relationship with her peers at school. But yeah, there wasn't quite as much effective humour in this volume as there have been in previous ones. There was some nice stuff about the assassin character, the kind of proxy mum, learning to cook, which I thought was quite entertaining. But yeah, overall, didn't enjoy it quite as much as previous volumes. By contrast then, Chainsaw Man, I didn't enjoy the last volume so much. This week's volume I thought was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. So again, this is volume 5. So follows this guy, Denji, who's a teenager and a bit of a loser, but who can transform himself into a chainsaw demon, and therefore, works with other demon hunters to fight various monsters. This one is really about his relationship with these two girls, one of whom is someone he works with, one of whom he just meets in a cafe, and he's in love with the one that he works with, and there's quite a sweet sequence where they go on a date and things like that. But then he meets this other girl in a cafe and gets the hots for her. She's into him, and he just doesn't know what to do. So quite a nice kind of depiction of how confusing it is to be a teenager and how you don't really know what you want and what the right thing to do is. So that was quite sweet and entertaining. And then there's also some fantastically over the top violence. So in particular, this brilliant scene where Denji is like the chainsaw devil, fights this guy who's the sword devil in this subway car, and they basically just rip each other to shreds in fantastically violent fashion. Really, really entertaining. And I felt the mix of those two things, which feel like they shouldn't work together, somehow in Chainsaw Man, it works. It just becomes pure entertainment. So yeah, really, really enjoyed Volume 5 of Chainsaw Man. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've been reading any manga this week. Let me know if you've got any recommendations for me. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're really good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.